In my opinion, there is no navigation technique that is superfluous, that is purely there for window dressing. They each and all have their own place and are equally important at different times. But there is one technique that I think is massively overlooked, and that often causes a real problem. And that technique is the ability to understand and to know when to stop. Hi folks, I'm Craig Taylor, and as always, a huge thanks for joining me here on my YouTube channel, The Bushcraft Padawan. Before we dive into looking at some specific map examples in terms of what I mean about knowing when to stop, let me just put the maps to one side for a moment and let me give you what I would call a real world, everyday example of this technique that is known as a catching feature or catching features. Imagine you're walking along the road and somebody pulls over and asks for directions, and you know the area quite well. You might give them directions such as this. Yeah, no worries mate, what you need to do is carry on driving down the road that you're currently facing. The road will drop downhill, it'll then steep uphill, and as you get to the top of that hill, it will bend sharply to the left. Follow it round to the left, you'll pass a church on your right hand side. Just past the church, you'll pass a small bed and breakfast on your left hand side, and immediately after that bed and breakfast is a farm track. You need to turn left down that farm track. As you're going past the church and the B&B, if you get to a railway level crossing, then you've gone too far. You need to stop, turn around and come back again and keep an eye out for that bed and breakfast on your right hand side. Got that? So not an untypical way that we often give directions to people when we're not overtly thinking about map and compass, we're just giving people directions. There were a few things that crept in there. I want to very quickly talk about the fact that I talked about a technique called collecting features. I talked about the direction that you're facing. The road drops downhill and uphill, it bends to the left, church on your right, bed and breakfast to your left, farm track just after that. I'm going to link to a video up in the top right hand corner of your screen now where I talk more about this technique known as collecting features. Go and check that video out if you've not yet looked at it. But I introduced another concept into those directions. I said that if you're going along that road and you hit the railway line level crossing, you need to stop, turn around and come back. That railway level crossing, that was the catching feature. That was a feature that I introduced into my directions that told people you've gone too far, you've missed it, you've not been concentrating, you've gone too far, stop, turn around and come back. If I'd not given them that catching feature, there is a likelihood that they would have kept on driving and driving and driving and driving and driving. They'd have eventually realised we've gone too far, we've missed it and turned round, but they could have wasted valuable time at that point and fuel at that point. So I gave them a catching feature to stop them in their tracks. Think about it as a safety net. Think about it as a figurative brick wall that if they hit it, they need to come back again. So that's the concept of a catching feature. It's something that you introduce into your navigation leg that if you were to hit it, you know you've gone too far, you can start to backtrack. So there's a real world example. Let's turn our attention to those maps now and let's look at some map-based examples. I'm going to head north to begin with, all the way up to the Highlands of Scotland, and we're going to look at the Ben Nevis and Fort William Ordnance Survey 1 in 25,000 map. And we're going to look at a specific area, quite a small area on this map, to start to give you an idea of what this catching feature could look like. Imagine now that you are at the water feature that is just off centre, left off centre of the centre of the map that you're looking at now, small water feature. Imagine you're heading in a roughly southeasterly direction into the bottom right hand corner of the map, and you're looking for that bothy that is marked up on the map there. You'd go through all of your natural navigation techniques, bearing, distance, pacing, timing, relating the map to the ground, understanding how steep the ground is going to be at any one point, understanding when it starts to level off. There's a great catching feature there. If you just look to the right or the east of that bothy, there is a water feature there. If you were to hit that water feature, you know that you have gone too far. For whatever reason, you're slightly further north or slightly further south of that bothy, but you know that you've gone too far. If it weren't for that water feature, there is a chance that you could keep on going. You'd eventually realise that you've gone wrong and have to come back, but that water feature is only just past the bothy. If you hit it, you haven't wasted a great deal of time by going wrong, and you can easily backtrack. So there's one example of a catching feature. Let's take a look at another one. Imagine now that you're in the region, roughly top centre of the map of Corriadar. I've probably done an absolute terrible job at pronouncing that, Corriadar, and you're wanting to head down roughly into the right hand corner of the map here, and you're heading towards Lochielt Lodge. Once again, you should still be using the navigation techniques of distance, bearing, pacing, timing, relating map to the ground, so on and so forth. But once again, if you were to be slightly left or right, or slightly east or west, or north or south of Lochielt Lodge, if something were to go wrong with your navigation, again, you've got some great catching features there at Lochielt Lodge. You're either going to hit the massive loch immediately below the lodge, or if you're slightly too high, you're going to hit what looks like a feeder stream or an exit stream from that loch itself. Either way, if you go too far, you're going to hit that water feature. The water feature isn't too far beyond that lodge. It's not kilometres or miles away. It's a couple of 100 metres at the most. You're going to hit that feature. You're going to know you've gone wrong. You're going to be able to turn around and retrace your steps, backtrack, and hopefully be able to find that lodge. Let's head further south now. Let's jump from Scotland, let's leapfrog over England and into North Wales to look at a specific example in the Snowdon area of North Wales. Let's imagine then that we are roughly at the bottom centre of the map on a peak called Moel Elio. Again, I'm doing a terrible job of pronouncing that, no doubt. We're wanting to head roughly in a north-northwest direction to those disused sheepfolds that we can see roughly in the top left-hand quadrant of the screen, top left-hand corner-ish of the screen. Again, we should still be using distance, bearing, pacing. We should still be relating the map to the ground and the ground to the map. We should still be breaking that leg down into much smaller chunks. But if we mentally have a picture that if we hit a wood line or a track running roughly north to south, because depending on whether we're slightly off left or slightly off right, we could hit a subtly different catching feature. But if we have that in our head as we're approaching that feature, again, they are very good catching features. They're not too far past those disused sheep folds there, so we wouldn't go too far wrong. We could stop at the track or at the edge of the forestry block, backtrack our steps and hopefully be able to locate those sheepfolds and those sheep pens that we were looking for. Let's just recap. In my opinion, you should never just be using one navigation technique. You should always be using them in combination with other techniques. Sometimes it's not possible to pace. Sometimes timing will go out of the window. Sometimes being able to relate features to the map will go out the window if you can't see very far. But there's always, in my opinion, an opportunity to introduce a catching feature into your navigation leg to tell you if you've gone too far. Everything you've seen so far in this video has been about a linear feature. It's been a stream, or it's been the edge of a loch, or it's been a track, or it's been the edge of a forestry block. They've all been very obvious linear things, but don't forget a catching feature could be something less obvious, like the ground suddenly starts to rise. If you can see that the moment the ground starts to rise you've gone too far, that's a catching feature. The ground terrain itself is changing. Equally, if the ground starts to drop off and you know you've gone too far by relating it to the map, that's a good catching feature. It doesn't always have to be a linear feature. It could be more to do with the shape of the ground and the terrain of the ground. Got a little piece of homework for you. Grab a map, grab a map of an area that you usually go to. Take a look at a navigation leg that you've perhaps done in the past, recently or in the distant past. Maybe take a look at a navigation leg that you're planning to do in the future. Just look at that leg and figure out what your catching feature would be. If you were navigating from point A to point B on your map doing your route, how would you know if you had gone too far? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you as always for watching, folks. I really appreciate it. Appearing now in the top left hand corner of your screen, I hope, unless I've got that right, is going to be one of my more recently published videos that's had some real positive feedback and lots of views. Why not go and check that out if you've not already done so? And across the bottom of the screen is a reminder to those folks of you out there that have not yet taken the opportunity to subscribe to this channel, a little reminder at the bottom of the screen on what you can do to remedy that. Thanks for watching, folks, and I'll see you in my next video very soon. Cheers.